This is Lone Wolf and Cub, Deluxe Edition, Volume 1. This was published a couple of weeks ago by Dark Horse. I've been waiting for this book for months. This is a collected set. It's going to be 5 volumes that will collect the entire Lone Wolf and Cub run. Each volume is around 775, 800 pages. And I just kind of wanted to talk about the book. Because a lot of people, this book, I mean, the original manga was created in 1970 and it was first serialized in English in the 80s. So a lot of people have read this, a lot of people have the previous Dark Horse collections. This is mostly new to me. So I've had a few questions as to whether or not it's worth buying, what I thought, is it worth the hype, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully I can answer some of those questions, just give you my impressions of this book. Physically, this book is extremely well made. Nice hardcover, great binding. The For my friend Jeremy, who goes under comics_elitist on Instagram, told me that he had sold his previous 28 book manga collection by Dark Horse that was published, I'm gonna say 20 years ago, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but it was a while ago. It's been out of print forever. And he compared that book to this, and he said that besides the fact that this story, what makes it kind of unique, besides the fact that it's collected, is that the manga is presented the first time from right to left. He also noted that it uses the Japanese sound effects, and also and just so some of you, if you don't know, back in the day when they were publishing manga in English, the feeling was that Americans couldn't adjust to reading right to left, so they made everything left to right, and what they did was they mirror imaged the images and present them that way, and that never really looks right. So there's no mirror imaging on these. He thought that the quality of the printing of the images was superior, and so in that way, visually and for those other reasons, it's an upgrade. Also, one thing I wanted to note is that this is approximately 7 by 10. This is the original size that the manga was serialized in Japan in the 70s. And I'm a big kind of a nerd when it comes to the size of the page. Not necessarily bigger is better, because sometimes bigger is not always better. But I think that whatever size the art was originally printed in is the size it should be seen. Sometimes you'll see like books like this, they're in a manga size, they lose something, or the Love and Rockets reprints that are smaller, they lose something because those books were made with a certain amount of real estate, and now you have shrunken that real estate, and it just doesn't look right. The story pages are all on matte paper, nice matte paper, which I like because I don't mind gloss paper, but I think I've become more of a fan of matte paper, especially for black and white, but even if it's really good color production, like you'll see like in the European comics. As I said, about 770 pages of story and art. And then it also includes a glossary, because they mentioned that there are certain terms in Japanese that don't translate easily into English, and so they would just rather keep the original word and then have a glossary here to explain, because for instance, this is a definition and description of this one word, and it's easier for the reader to go back and say, oh, this is what you're talking about. And I actually use this glossary quite a bit. Very useful, actually. And then it includes 5 pages of covers and art from the book, and these are presented in nice thick slick paper so the colors pop more. This is by Kojima as well. And then these are from the covers that Frank Miller did in the 80s for the first comics English translations. And I actually had some of these before. I think I traded them because I realized that the covers are cool, but they didn't finish the series. And then there's a biography of the writer and the artist. So physically, it's a really great product. Looks really good. Very well made. So they didn't skimp on anything here. Now, the story, if you're not familiar with it, is that it tells the story of a Ronin who travels with his child with this old style uh, baby stroller during feudal Japan. A Ronin is a masterless samurai, and they only in this volume get into some of his background as to why he's masterless. I'm sure that mystery is going to unfold more and more. But each story is an adventure where basically he travels through Japan. He's an assassin for hire. He, he'll have like a flagstaff on his stroller and say "Lone Wolf and Cub for hire," and he is probably the deadliest assassin in Japan, um, a samurai of extraordinary ability. And one of the story gimmicks that's here is that when he's hired by someone, he wants to know the reason why he's being hired. I need to be told why before I accept. But also as a plot device, it does the setup as to why is he been hired, excuse me, to assassinate someone. And it's pretty interesting. And the first few installments are that formula, but then later on you start seeing how they play with the formula, where sometimes there's action and they'll do a flashback, or there's one story in particular where he's hired to kill a Buddhist priest who people think is a living Buddha, and there's this real conversation in his head and with others about Buddhism. Can you kill a Buddha? All these things that are foreign to me because I'm not familiar with Buddhism, but I'm pretty sure with someone who is really pretty insightful and pretty challenging questions, something that goes above just a regular type of action kind of manga. The art, as you can see, let me just flip through some of these pages, is really good. There's a lot of sequences here where there's just no words. None are needed just for this action. Very cinematic. I know we throw that term around a lot, but this is very cinematic. And you have to remember that this was published between 1970 and 1976. So it was really way ahead of its time. And there are pages here that you can see that have influenced, like I can see some of the work here, and I know Frank Miller has said that this was an influence on his work. And there are certain panels I look at and I say, okay, I saw this in Daredevil during his first run on the book. And there's also certain sequences that you can see Gendy Tartakovsky use in Samurai Jack, and he's credited that as also, and this book is an influence on that series. Again, just a lot of this, cinematic thing where he has this close up and this backup, and just how he's in a prison cell, but his head is perfectly framed right here in the center of these bars. Just really interesting, good work. Just very visually captivating, and the story is also captivating. Like I know I've seen things like this, like in Daredevil, especially with manga. A lot of blood, a lot of gore, a lot of violence. You get away with a lot in shonen manga, especially I think back in the day. Just really interesting story, characters. The characters that are involved in each of these stories are unique, but they're not really recurring. Only real recurring characters are the Lone Wolf and Cub, his son. So the writing as far as setting up people, explaining people, filling these people out to make them like believable, is really just a testament to great writing and great art. And I just love this. Just the focus on the eyes, staring at each other. Just this whole wordless sequence. Just showing this battle, page after page after page after page. And it isn't like one of these fights is over like in a page. Some of these fights last real long like they would in a real fight. Like I said, just outstanding work. Really interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to Volume 2, which is scheduled for March of 2026, and to continue reading this story. Like I said, there is brutality and there is violence, so if you're sensitive about that, this might not be your cup of tea. Now, should you buy it? Well, That depends. If you already have the original collection of either the 28 volume manga set or the 10 volume omnibus set, uh, to sit there and spend more money to get this, because each one of these volumes is $55, and that's the first two volumes. With inflation, this might actually go up in price. Like the Fist of the North Star started off at 1995, then became $25. So you're talking at least 275 to $300 total investment in these books if you get all five. So it's not cheap. If you already have the stories, that's really up to you. Yeah, it's cool that it's right to left, that they use the original Japanese sound effects, that they've cleaned up the art and all that, and it's larger size, so it is easier and better to read. But again, that's, really up to you as a personal thing. If you have some of the volumes, or I guess if you have all the volumes and you really want to get, and you see this, you really want to get your hands on it, um, you maybe you can sell them or trade them and get something of value. If you've never read this, I think you really like it. If you like this type of manga, you may want to get a volume, either cheap, one of the old volumes really cheap at a con or a bookstore, or maybe check it out from your local library. And if you like it, then and you would probably want to get this if you don't already have it. But as far as the storytelling, as far as visuals and themes, this is truly excellent. Very impressed. This is way, way, way ahead of its time. And I'm really looking forward to the second volume. And one thing I forgot to note when I was talking about the physical product, this comes shrink wrapped. So, when you get it, it's completely brand new. That's all I can say. This is my favorite manga reprint. I don't read a million of them, but I've read quite a few of them. They've all been good, but this is my favorite manga reprint for 2025. I just think Dark Horse did an excellent job with this. And, I'd like to see a Crying Freeman one come out in the future. But for right now, I'm happy with Lone Wolf and Cub and looking forward to getting the remaining volumes as they are released. Hope this helps. Thanks.